When people think about Google Street View, they will often think about the Google Street View car, which you can sometimes see in reflections. And sometimes you can actually see the car in the round itself. But you may be surprised that Google has used quite a few other methods of transportation to capture this Google Street View imagery besides the Google car. And today we're going to talk about the top 10 most unique Google coverages to ever be released. Coming in at number 1, we have the Triker. Now, this is simply a camera that's put onto a backpack so that the person can walk around into places where a Google Street View car would never be able to fit. This means that some of this coverage is actually the most beautiful that we can see in the world. Out of all of the unique methods on this list today, this is by far the most commonly used. And no doubt, this is the easiest way for Google to get coverage pretty much everywhere in the world. Due to government restrictions, there are actually some countries in the world that don't have Google Street View at all with normal cars, and all they have is this Triker, like here in Belarus. There is no easier method of transportation than just being on your own 2 feet, which makes the Triker very important and can cover some pretty cool events. Coming in at number 2, we have the Google Street View Tricycle. Now, this was created all the way back in 2008, and you can kind of tell because the camera quality is not as good as some of the stuff that we've been used to lately. It was first used here in California's Legoland, and you can kind of see it in the reflection of this mirror. The Trike is used mainly in places that have paths that are just a little bit too small for a Google Street View full-size vehicle to travel to, so they use the Trike, which is a little bit easier than the Triker where you have to walk around with. At least here, you get to ride on some wheels. Next up, we have the Google Snowmobile, which was invented for the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, Canada. This is some really cool coverage just for the fact that it was created for the Olympics, so potentially the Olympians or others can take a look at the hill that they will be competing on. Since then, plenty of countries have adopted the Google Snowmobile to cover all of their ski slopes. And as you can see, the coverage does get a little bit better. Here it is in 2017, and we can see the driver. Nice. If you are a fan of winter sports, this one is definitely for you. Now, if you thought Google only mapped out the land, well, you are wrong, as Google has mapped out plenty of rivers, lakes, oceans, and seas all over the world. And of course, they do this by using boats. Boats are very iconic to the world of Google Street View, as there are so many different boats around the world. Oftentimes, you can even see the operator. There are potentially thousands of different types of boats that you can see on Google Street View, so not only is it cool to see the surrounding environment, but it's also cool to see the boat itself. Sometimes you might even see yourself on a pretty large yacht. And if you thought Google only captured the land or sea, well, then you are still also wrong, because here we are in outer space. Google has actually captured the International Space Center. This happened in 2017. It's perhaps one of the coolest coverages that we actually have on the website. So this was not taken by a boat or a Trike or a snowmobile. This was actually taken by an astronaut. The cool thing about this coverage that makes it fairly unique is that it's actually interactive. You can click on things and read about what it does in the station. For example, this is the joint airlock, and if you're fast enough, you might even be able to spot an astronaut, but seems to have vanished. Next up, we have the Google ATV, which stands for all-terrain vehicle. You can see these very often, for example, in Greenland, because the terrain is just so rocky and rough. It really needs a vehicle like this to survive. One of the more famous cases of the ATV is found on Devon Island in northern Canada. They wanted to capture footage here because it looks the most like Mars on Earth. And for that reason, of course, they needed to use ATVs. Here you can see there was a whole expedition of a bunch of ATVs all in a line, trying to capture some Google Street View. Now, sometimes a boat is just not feasible because the water is just a little bit too shallow and it's a little bit too deep for a simple trekker. So that's why these Google researchers used a raft. The changing tides quickly fill and empty this atoll, which makes it super hard to predict what the water level will be at any given time. And thus, the Google Raft was born. Rafts are pretty niche in Google Street View and you won't see it too often, but if there is an atoll, it might be needed. It's time to go from the ocean to the desert, because this is the next thing on our list. What are we riding? We are on an animal, and that is the camel. Yes, this is the Google Camel. To be more specific, this is an Arabian one-humped camel, also known as a dromedary. This camel is named Rafia and apparently was very stubborn according to the Google researcher who was with her. But thanks to Rafia, we get these incredible sand dune views. This beautiful sand dune coverage is found in the United Arab Emirates, and it's one of the few times that an animal has actually been used to collect Google Street View imagery. Now, this next one may be the coolest one on this list, and at first glance, you might think we just are indoors with a Triker. We just have a backpack camera on, but that may be true, but you can actually go onto the track. Yes, this is located in Hamburg, Germany, and you can actually go onto the track and kind of explore as if you were a miniature person yourself. This is the world's largest model railway with over 42,000 feet of track, which is unbelievable, and you can explore quite a lot of it on Google Street View. Now, when tourists come to visit this place, they may actually not be able to see some of the things that this Google camera is able to see, as it can get into some pretty hard to reach areas. And this is also the smallest official Google camera that has ever been used. And lastly, we have one of the most unique things that has ever been done in Google Street View history. Here we have some Google researchers about to complete a very daring expedition to get some coverage. That is because they are about to rappel down this cliff into a volcano. You see the whole process of them rappelling down into the volcano step by step all the way down. As you can see, this is really steep terrain, and imagine carrying an extremely heavy camera on your back. This could be quite dangerous, especially when there's a giant bubbling volcano right below you. You got to give credit to the bravery of this Google expeditioner right here to go into this volcano, which is located in Vanuatu, by the way, which is actually the only coverage that is seen in Vanuatu, this volcano and a little village nearby. And yes, if you're wondering, the coverage does go right next to the volcano where you can see it actually erupting. That is really cool. So do you think the Google Rappel is the most unique coverage in the world? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I thought this was pretty interesting, and I hope you did too. And if you want to explore all the Street View in a very fun way, completely free, hop on over to OpenGuessr.com. And as always, I will see you in the next video.